What happens when a thought refuses to die? When an idea insists on remaining, even without a visible form? Perhaps you've felt that certain inner states seem to start shaping the space around you, as if the world were not just a backdrop, but an answer. Modern physics has delved into this mystery and found something disturbing. At the heart of matter, nothing is fixed until it is observed. Particles do not behave like solid bricks, but like suspended possibilities. Yet this gaze that organizes chaos does not belong only to the scientist before a quantum microscope. It belongs to each one of us. Belief is not just an opinion, it is a force field, a kind of silent language that crosses the invisible and restructures the visible. When you believe, you're not merely interpreting reality, you are encoding frequencies that resonate in the fabric of the real. The curious thing is that many ancient cultures had already intuited this, long before cutting-edge laboratory experiments. Shamans, mystics, visionaries all spoke of an intimate correspondence between faith and matter. Today, science calls this the observer effect. But what does it really mean to turn belief into matter? Is it only a metaphor? Or are we facing a cosmic mechanism in which every conviction becomes the invisible matrix of concrete futures? In this video, we will walk along the edge of this abyss, where the mind touches the world, where the intimate vibration of certainty can condense into form. And you may discover that you are not only living inside reality, but also writing its texture particle by particle. What science calls the observer effect did not begin as a philosophical hypothesis, but as an experimental discomfort. Early 20th century physicists expected particles to behave predictably, following defined trajectories. However, the more they investigated the nature of the electron or photon, the clearer it became that there was no fixed path. The behavior depended on how it was observed. Without measurement, the electron seemed to spread like a wave of probabilities. Under the instrument's attentive gaze, it restricted itself to a defined position, as if attention itself forced it to choose a reality. This phenomenon, known as the double-slit experiment, became a symbol of a conceptual boundary. A single electron, launched against a barrier with two slits, behaved as either particle or wave depending on the measurement. It was as if matter were suspended between many futures, and only the act of observing decided which one would materialize. It was not merely a matter of scientific record. The question that echoed through laboratory corridors was, what, after all, is the role of consciousness in this process? If matter, at its root, responds to the gaze, the observer ceases to be a mere spectator. They become an active part of the scene. Every belief, every expectation, every silent conviction can function as a lens, determining not only how we see the world, but how the world organizes itself before us. This is more than a spiritual metaphor. It is physics applied to daily life. Ancient cultures, still without scientific language, described similar phenomena through symbols. They spoke of the mind as a creative breath, capable of touching the invisible substance of existence. It was not naive superstition. They were poetic ways of intuiting the same mystery that today translates into equations. Consciousness interacts with the real in a direct way. The difference is that science tries to isolate variables, while spirituality has always integrated body, emotion, and intention into one creative force. When you believe in something, you are not merely describing a mental possibility. You are orienting your perception and consequently opening space for certain probabilities to become more accessible. The human brain, in sustaining a belief, adjusts neural circuits, alters neurotransmitter release, reorganizes attention patterns. This changes not only how we interpret stimuli, but also how we react to them. And each reaction, in turn, generates consequences that reverberate in the environment. What we call reality can be seen as a constant play between inner conviction and external response. Consider the example of a scientist before a microscope. They expect to find a certain structure and organize their experiment based on that expectation. Even without realizing it, that conviction guides their focus, interpretations, and even the conclusions they draw. In the same way, someone who believes in their own incapacity creates a field of references that confirms that limit. The world seems to close doors. On the other hand, A belief in one's own power opens new paths, attracts connections, and awakens resonances once invisible. Quantum physics suggests that reality is not a rigid block, but a field of probabilities. Within this field, human attention acts as a catalyst, choosing which possibilities collapse into experience. It is not magic in the naive sense, but a profound interaction between mind and matter. The quantum field is not a distant space, it is the backdrop of every breath. It is where thoughts circulate not as isolated echoes, but as vibrations that interfere with particle behavior. This perspective requires a radical shift in how we understand daily life. If reality depends in part on how it is observed, then each belief functions as a filter that not only interprets, but literally shapes it. It is not simply about believing to feel better, but about recognizing that belief is an act of invisible engineering. As architects of probabilities, we are continuously solidifying worlds. At this point, an inevitable question arises. How far does consciousness influence extend? Can we alter physical structure intentionally, solely through the power of belief? Or are we limited to small variations, such as choosing how to react to a situation? The answer is not yet definitive. Experiments in quantum mechanics suggest clues, but the reach of the human mind is still far from being fully understood. What we do know is that no observation is neutral. Every attention modifies. This is where science and spirituality meet. Both recognize that the observer is central. For science, the gaze decides the trajectory of particles. For spiritual traditions, faith shapes the subtle matter that precedes form. And even though they use different languages, both seem to point to the same horizon. The real is not fixed, but continually co-created. If science reveals that the gaze can alter matter's behavior, we need images that help us feel this truth beyond theory. Imagine the universe as a vast night lake. Its surface seems calm, but every belief is like a stone thrown into the water. It creates ripples that spread in circles, reaching regions invisible to the immediate eye. No matter the stone's size, the movement expands, resonates, finds edges, and returns. That return is what we call material experience, the way the invisible responds. Belief is different from a fleeting idea. An idea can be light like a cloud, scattered by the wind of distraction. Belief, however, is dense. It remains, it creates weight. It operates like an invisible magnetic field, attracting particles, people, events that vibrate at the same frequency. Physics would call it coherence of states. Spiritual traditions would call it synchronicity. Both describe the same phenomenon. Deep convictions tend to manifest outside of us as a tangible reflection. There are ancestral practices that symbolize this intimate relationship between mind and matter. Ancient peoples performed rituals of dance not only to celebrate, but to fix a collective intention into the earth. Each repeated step marked the ground, each chant directed energy. Shared belief became communal experience. In a way, they were primitive quantum experiments. The group observed a desired reality until the social body sustained it as truth. We can translate this into our daily lives. By deeply believing in a possibility, our entire body organizes around it. The heart adjusts its rhythm, breathing takes on another cadence, muscles prepare themselves. This alignment creates electrical and chemical signals that traverse the organism, but do not stop there. They radiate as electromagnetic frequencies around the body, interacting with the environment. Today, sensitive devices can measure the human energy field, revealing that thoughts and emotions are not confined within the mind. They reverberate. This is where the metaphor of the lake gains strength. Every conviction is a stone thrown, but not all produce the same impact. A belief in fear tends to create fast, agitated waves that disperse without clear direction. A belief in trust, on the other hand, generates stable ripples, able to propagate farther harmoniously. The universe responds not only to the act of believing, but to the vibrational quality of that belief. If you want to try this now, close your eyes for a few seconds. Bring to mind a memory of insecurity. Notice how the body reacts, perhaps a weight in the chest, shoulders shrinking, shallow breathing. Now replace that memory with a scene of achievement, something you truly believed possible and accomplished. Notice the difference. The chest opens, breathing deepens, muscles relax. This change is physical, measurable. But the most fascinating thing is that this internal shift is not limited to the organism. It emits patterns capable of interacting with the reality around you, like waves spreading in the night lake. The metaphor can go even further. Think of your mind as a lighthouse. Each belief lights a specific color in this beam of light. As it crosses space, this light touches particles, paths, situations. The colors you emit condition the encounters you will have. And even if you don't notice right away, the environment responds, reorganizing itself around the vibration you sustained. This perspective invites us to a kind of radical responsibility. Belief is not just an intimate choice, but an act of creation. Each time we sustain a conviction, we throw a stone into the lake, we light a lighthouse, we move frequencies. There is no belief without consequence. Some dissolve quickly like brief ripples, others persist for years, crossing generations. If we wish to touch the essence of this phenomenon, we must learn to listen to our own convictions. Many times they are not conscious. We carry beliefs inherited from family, from cultures, from old experiences. They act silently, but determine the type of reality that collapses before us. Identifying these invisible structures is like recognizing which stones already rest at the bottom of the lake and continue influencing the water's movement. It is in this recognition that true alchemy begins, replacing beliefs that imprison with convictions that free. The process is not limited to positive thinking or repeated phrases. It is about generating coherence between mind, emotion, and body until the belief becomes alive, pulsating, undeniable. From then on, the universe has no choice. It responds, reorganizes, manifests. Up to this point it seems simple. Believe in something, sustain that vibration, let reality respond. But what if it isn't so linear? What if belief is not only a key that opens doors, but also an invisible prison that shapes the space around us without our noticing? The paradox is inevitable. The same mechanism that allows us to create new worlds can also imprison our perception inside a narrow maze. Those who absolutely believe that life is a struggle will find constant proof of that battle. Those who are convinced that everything goes wrong will not only see mistakes, but will unconsciously build situations that confirm that view. In this sense, belief not only manifests possibilities, it continuously selects the same type of reality, like a scratched record that insists on repeating the same melody. Quantum physics suggests there are multiple futures available, but the mind, when fixed on a rigid conviction, always collapses in the same direction. It is like looking at a vast field of possible paths and seeing only a narrow corridor. Belief not only illuminates the world, it also erases what does not match its frequency. This is the pattern break many resist accepting, because up to now, you believed that it was enough to strengthen faith to achieve anything. But what if belief, no matter how intense, also limits? What if it is a lens that colors everything, preventing you from perceiving horizons beyond your current reach? What was strength can become a prison. A concrete example, a person may deeply believe they do not deserve abundance. This conviction shapes their choices, their posture, their reactions. Even when faced with real opportunities, they reject them or cannot even recognize them. Belief creates coherence, yes, but a coherence that shrinks what is possible. Science would call this confirmation bias. Spirituality would call it an energetic pattern. Both describe the same phenomenon. The mind believes and the universe confirms. But the shock comes precisely here. The universe does not confirm because it is cruel, but because it faithfully responds to the sustained frequency. Matter does not distinguish positive or negative belief. It only obeys the vibrational quality it is offered. The real has no preferences. It only reverberates. This paradox leads us to a new understanding. Believing is not enough. It is necessary to learn to release beliefs that have already fulfilled their role. Creation depends not only on sustaining, but also on letting go. Belief, seen from another angle, is a kind of mold. If we never break the mold, we will keep producing the same form, even if we desire novelty. This is where many seekers get confused. They think faith must be maintained at all costs. But true power lies in knowing when it is time to dissolve a belief and make room for other frequencies. Creating is not collecting certainties. It is also letting go of them. The next step is not consequence, it is creation. Reality does not move because you accumulated convictions, but because you knew how to renew the internal field of possibilities. It is at this moment that the observer ceases to be a hostage to their own gaze and becomes a conscious creator, capable of changing not only external scenarios, but the internal filters that define what is seen. And here a crucial question fits. Which beliefs are still shaping your life without your noticing? Which inherited truths do you continue to sustain as if they were yours? Perhaps this is the moment to realize that the reality you see is not the world itself, but only the response to the frequencies you carry. If this point made sense to you, I want to propose something simple. Like this video now and write in the comments the phrase, "I am choosing new futures." This statement is not merely symbolic. It is a way to register in the collective field the decision to release old beliefs and make room for new possibilities. By sharing this phrase, you reinforce not only for yourself, but for everyone who reads it, that belief can be a source of liberation, not imprisonment. If we understand that beliefs can both open and limit, we need human images that translate this paradox. This is where myths become precious keys, because they are not just old stories, but symbolic maps of the mind. It is said that, in a certain village, there lived a young potter known for his skill in shaping perfect vases. Each piece left his hands with precision, symmetry, and beauty. Everyone in the community admired him, but over time his fame began to weigh on him. The young man came to believe that he would only be valued if his vases were flawless. That conviction, at first a strength, turned into a prison. He rejected any work that had an irregular detail and destroyed dozens of pieces for not being up to the mark. What was once talent became suffering. His rigid belief shaped not only the clay, but his own life, until one day, tired, he let an imperfect vase dry in the sun without breaking it. The piece cracked inside, creating a natural pattern, as if the clay had written its own poetry. To his surprise, the community did not see a flaw but beauty. That imperfection became singular, something impossible to reproduce. The potter then realized his belief in perfection kept him from seeing the true power of his art. This small narrative contains a profound revelation. Each of us is like the potter. We shape realities from the beliefs we sustain, but when they crystallize, they prevent life from expressing itself more fully. The young man had to accept the crack for the work to reveal a value greater than perfection. Letting go of the belief did not make him lose his art. On the contrary, it allowed it to expand. We can carry this metaphor over to science. At the quantum level, particles do not always move in straight or predictable lines. What seems like failure or chance is, in fact, the expression of multiple possibilities. The attempt to fix everything into a single pattern is similar to the potter's quest for absolute perfection. Reality, however, asks for room for the unexpected. What we judge as error may be exactly the point of opening to new futures. Spiritual traditions also keep similar narratives. In Japan, there is the art of kintsugi, which consists of repairing broken vases with gold. The cracks are not hidden, but turned into highlights, making the piece more valuable than before it broke. It is a reminder that the beliefs that hurt or limit us can, if recognized, become points of light. What seemed imperfect can reveal the true beauty of experience. This symbolic story invites us to look at our own cracks. How many convictions do we keep carrying because we believe they protect us, when in fact they imprison us? The potter believed he would only be respected if he were perfect, but life showed that respect and beauty were precisely in imperfection. Likewise, we often believe we need to control every aspect of reality. However, conscious creation asks for another stance, the courage to let go and allow the unexpected to manifest. It is at this point that science and myth meet. Physics speaks of probabilities, myth speaks of cracks. Both point in the same direction. The real is vaster than any fixed belief. Every time we accept breaking the mold, something greater is revealed. And perhaps this is the hardest lesson to accept. Belief is not an end, but a path. It does not exist to be eternal, but to lead us to the point at which it must be transformed. The potter discovered this by allowing imperfection to remain. And we also need to learn to let life right in the cracks we try to hide. The story reminds us that creation happens not only through what we believe, but also through what we dare to release. Every time a conviction dissolves, space opens for new quantum possibilities to draw near. In this sense, cracks are not flaws, they are portals. The story of the potter and the imperfect vase leads us to a necessary practice. It is not enough to understand the power of beliefs. It is necessary to live it in the body, to feel its action in every cell. Only direct experience can reveal how the invisible becomes matter. Close your eyes for a few minutes. Breathe deeply, allowing the air to expand not only in your lungs, but into the space around your heart. Each inhalation is like a call, each exhalation a gesture of surrender. As the rhythm stabilizes, notice that there is an inner atmosphere that sustains your thoughts. This atmosphere is the field where your beliefs dwell. Now bring to mind an old conviction, something you have always believed about yourself. Do not try to judge whether it is positive or negative. Just allow it to present itself. Observe how your body responds. Perhaps a subtle tension appears in the stomach, a weight on the shoulders, or even a contraction in the throat. Do not fight it. Just acknowledge this belief has form, vibration, substance. It is not abstract. It is inscribed in the body. Next, visualize this conviction as a clay sculpture. See it before you. It bears marks, fissures, lines that tell its story. Touch it mentally. Feel its texture. Ask yourself, does this form still serve me, or does it only keep me trapped in a repetition? If the answer is that it no longer supports your path, allow the sculpture to come apart. See the clay dissolve, returning to a malleable state, ready to be recreated. This exercise is not just visualization. By dissolving the mental form, you send signals to the brain and body that you are ready to release old patterns. Neurons that once connected in fixed circuits begin to become more flexible, making room for new connections. Neuroscience calls this plasticity. Spirituality would call it inner rebirth. Both describe the same dynamic. The body responds to the act of letting go. Now, after undoing the sculpture, create a new form. Shape in the imaginary clay a representation of a belief you wish to sustain from now on. It might be confidence, freedom, abundance, health. Do not choose superficially. Let the body respond. When the right image appears, you will feel a natural expansion in the chest, a more fluid breath, an unexpected lightness. This is the confirmation that the internal field has accepted the new frequency. Hold this form before you as if it were a delicate flame. There is no need to force it, just keep it alive for a few moments. The more coherence there is between the mental image, the felt emotion, and the body's response, the more intensely this belief will begin to inscribe itself in the quantum field surrounding you. To expand the experience, slowly open your eyes and look around. Choose a simple object, and a cup, a book, a stone. Allow yourself to see this object not just as solid matter, but as the condensation of infinite probabilities. Recognize that your new belief can also condense, becoming as real as the object you see now. This contemplation is a reminder. The invisible is not fantasy. It is merely matter in waiting. This exercise can be repeated as many times as necessary. With each practice, you reinforce in the body the ability to identify old beliefs, dissolve them, and give form to new convictions. The process is not mechanical repetition, but living presence. It is necessary to feel, to allow emotion to accompany intention. Without emotion, belief does not gain density. Without the body, it does not translate into action. This practice also awakens another aspect, the perception that the real is not ready-made, but in a constant state of birth. With each breath, you are collapsing probabilities, choosing futures, shaping experiences. The exercise serves as training to recognize this power and use it consciously. Perhaps the most important thing is to realize that the technique creates nothing from the outside. It only reveals that you are already a creative source. By dissolving beliefs and giving form to new ones, you remember something that has always been present. The universe responds, but it is consciousness that calls. After dissolving old forms and giving body to new beliefs, it becomes evident that reality is not a wall, but living fabric in constant motion. Each breath, each thought sustained with emotion, Each gesture charged with intention acts like a needle sewing possibilities into the cloth of the world. What seemed solid proves to be malleable. What we judged as destiny shows itself to be choice. Science has offered us experiments to prove that the observer alters matter. Spirituality has offered us rituals to remind us that faith shapes the invisible. Now it is up to us to unite these visions and live as conscious creators. It is not about controlling everything, but about recognizing that each belief is an energetic seed that can bloom into tangible form. The power is not in manipulating the real, but in sustaining vibrations that resonate with what we wish to experience. If the universe responds to what we believe, the final question is not what will happen to me, but what frequency am I willing to sustain? This is the true turning point, understanding that life not only happens to us, but organizes itself around what we are. Not every answer arrives as a voice. Some arrive as vibration inscribed in our skin, in our encounters, in our days. The real is approaching, always awaiting the gaze that calls it. And if you made it this far, I want you to write in the comments, "I am a conscious creator." That will show me that you walked with me to the end of this journey. And if you felt that this content resonated with you, subscribe to the channel so we can keep opening new horizons together between science, spirituality, and creation.